Listeners, have you ever felt split in two, where one part of you is reaching towards something while another part digs its heels in because it's afraid, protective, or simply doesn't want to go along with your plan? What do you do with that inner tug of war? Do you exile the parts of you that don't like the plan? Or can you learn to listen to both sides and find a solution that supports all of you? In today's episode of Writing Your Resilience, I have the privilege of speaking with therapist and author Atash Yaghmaian about what it means to turn towards our so called weakest parts with compassion and how that shift doesn't just heal us individually, it strengthens our connections to communities both near and far. We also dive into her stunning book, My Name Means Fire, which I absolutely adore. Atash also shares the unconventional structure she chose and how form itself can become a pathway into deeper truth. If you're a memoirist or really anyone trying to make meaning from complicated experiences, this conversation will expand how you think about both your story and yourself. And trust me, you'll want to hear what she has to say about the parts of ourselves we've been taught to hide. All right, let's get to my conversation with Atash Yaghmaian. Welcome to Writing Resilience, the podcast for writers who want to write and live the story that sets them free. I'm your host, Lisa Cooper Ellison, a writer, transformational and trauma-informed coach, story alchemist, and fellow traveler on the winding road of healing and creativity. Each week, I'll share tools, practices, and conversations that will help you let go of what no longer serves you as you create stories that change lives, especially your own. Together, we'll explore how to trust your creative voice, support your mental health and resilience, work with your nervous system and unique design, and stay connected to your deepest calling as a writer, even when life gets messy. It's time, my friends, to write and live the story that sets you free. I'm honored to walk that journey alongside you, one story and one episode at a time. Well, hello, Atash. Welcome to the Writing Your Resilience podcast. I am so happy that you are here today because I adore your book. I told you that before I hit the record button. So, for everyone who is watching, this is her book, My Name is Fire. And if you have not read this book, you need to stop what you're doing. Well, maybe listen to this episode first, then stop what you're doing and go buy a copy because this book is incredible. So I am so happy to have you here today and just welcome.
Thank you for having us, and we're really excited to be here.
Well, I always like to give my guests the first chance to tell us about themselves and their book. So, what would you like us to know about you and My Name Means Fire?
I am a therapist, I'm a writer, I'm an activist, and I have this condition called dissociative identity disorder. I came fully out, publicly out in March last year. So this March will be a year. So it's not that long. Although, like all my friends and colleagues and a lot of people knew in my circle about it, and little by little, we start telling more people and more people, but publicly we came out in March because we were like, okay, the book is coming out. Everybody is gonna know. So we need to come like on Instagram or Facebook and like in different places actually come out, talk about it because we need to get used to talking about it. And that was really scary. But the moment we did it, it just felt like the right thing. And all of a sudden, we had this feel of relief that we don't have to hide anymore and we can just be ourselves. And people like it, great. They don't like it, great. But at least we don't have to just always bend to make sure other people's are comfortable. But like we deserve to feel comfortable too by being who we are. And this is what we teach other people. Try to be who you are, when you are, where you are, as you are. So that applies to us too. So coming out, it really helped us to actually own that. Writing about the idea is a process of self-discovery. So it's like it was the way that we understood actually what our story was because everything was in bits and pieces. Like all trauma survivors experience this, like all their stories in bits and pieces. And it just like was a way of organizing ourselves. And this book was first written for us, like for myself and for my different parts, but just to understand, what do you remember? What do I remember? What is this other part remembers? And then just making sense of life, really. So it's like a really a collaboration between my parts. And also like talking about something that is so misunderstood in a way that people can digest, takes a lot of patience and courage from my parts, because we don't want to like trauma dump on people, but we also want people to really understand what it feels like to be someone who has this condition. The feedback we're getting is that people are like, oh my God, I really get it. Thank you so much, like for explaining it this way and not pathologizing it and sharing your experience the way it happened to you. So we are very proud.
And you should be. For listeners who don't know what DID is, and so we're talking about dissociative identity disorder, because you're a clinician, in addition to someone who has this diagnosis, how might you explain this to someone who knows nothing about it so that they understand why you're using the pronoun we or how that experience shows up for you?
The way we have to explain with someone who doesn't have any experience with psychology, and sometimes even people don't know what dissociation is, it's like we make it very simple, talk about like separation or zoning out, or we talk about it in ways like people who are in elevators, they always like a little bit dissociated, or when they're driving for a long time, they know where they're going, but sometimes they're just like, how did I get here? I wasn't even like aware of it. So we explain dissociation like that because everyone dissociates. But dissociative identity disorder is a little bit different because the dissociation that happens as a child through a lot of trauma, that separation of, it's really about separation of parts. We believe everybody has parts, right? So we all have parts, but people with childhood trauma, their parts separates and there's a distance between their parts, and sometimes they're not aware that part is there. And people with the more complex trauma, this separation is even farther and farther and farther, to a point that there's a lot of amnesia between their parts, so they might not be even aware of it. That was my experience as well. Like, I wasn't aware of my other parts. I thought, this is it, this is me, I have to be like a go-getter, I have to do this. But then I would have amnesia and would lose a lot of time. And I was like, couldn't figure out what's happening, right? Because there's also very little information out there. People with the ID, now it's getting a lot better. And this is why we wrote this book, to make it better. I didn't understand what was happening. And because there wasn't enough information, I had to figure everything out, because I thought forgetting there's something wrong with me. Like, I'm forgetful. I don't know where half of my day went. There's something wrong with my brain. I had to become a therapist to understand not only nothing is wrong with my brain, the idea is this gift that I had this awful, awful experiences, traumas that I could not deal as a child from me until I'm ready one day, right? And when you become ready, you just like, you start getting flashbacks of memories, and you're like, how could that be? How could that be? And so that's kind of the way we explain it, because we want people to understand, like, DID people and non-DID people, we're not that different, because we all have parts. Some of our parts have more distance than the other parts, even non-DID people. Like, they're like, where did I put my keys? Like, I can't remember, even though a part of them put it somewhere. But it's normal. Nobody like think about it anyway. Whereas for DID person is a little bit more complex. Each part lived as if they are the only part. So like, we become more skillful in things in our interest. Like, my tango dancer is really good at tango dancing, and I'm not so good at it, but I can do it because it's in the body. But different parts like learn things in a more elaborate ways. They become more skillful in things. But other people also have parts that experiences different desires, like, oh, I really want to be with this partner. I really love my partner. And at the same time, they know there's a part of them that's like, I really like, I wish I could break up with this person. I don't want to be with that person. So they experience inner conflicts in a more obvious way. Whereas DID people, we don't experience conflict so much the same way because we are so separated until we write to each other. Then we can see it on the page. Oh my God, there's a conflict. I want to go to this yoga teacher training, and my other part wants to do Tantra practitioner training. And this other part wants to like just to continue in developing our private practice. And this other part just want to travel and scuba dive. And then we have to figure out, okay, how can we make everyone happy in the system? Because ultimately, that's the goal, right? If we can kind of create that harmony, inner harmony, and creating a place that all parts of us feel validated, accepted, encouraged to be what they are and what they want to be.
I love that definition. You've done such a great job explaining this. And as a person who has a diagnosis of complex PTSD and an experience of dissociation and pretty intense dissociation, I love how you're talking about the fact that we all have parts, everyone, whether you consider yourself as having a diagnosis or not, we do. And the more we can connect with those parts, the more we can understand ourselves. And for you, one of the things I'm hearing is that writing is not just about writing this book, but it's a way for you to develop the words I'm going to use, and you can tell me if they're right or not, is maybe internal coherence between your parts, like a sense of agreement or consensus around what you plan to do so that you can address any conflicts that are happening between your parts. That writing plays this powerful role in your life.
It's the most incredible tool that we found that actually works. Because once we see it in pages, like once we see it on the paper, right? Like we write a lot with pen and paper, but we also write a lot on our phone because sometimes we don't have paper and paper. Like when we feel a conflict inside, like there's something like I had to go to this retreat, but I'm exhausted, right? I feel really exhausted. And I felt this conflict of saying yes to it. And it was so intense. I was like, this is a retreat I really want to go. These are all women I want to be around. But there felt like a really huge conflict inside of me. And I couldn't say yes and I couldn't say no. And people were like, are you coming? And I was just like, I couldn't say. So I was like, oh, I have to write to my parts. So I wrote, like, what do you guys think about this retreat? Like, let's hear it. And every part wrote why they want to go, why they want to go, if they want to go, what they need, and if they don't want to go, what they need. And just by hearing it, like seeing it on the paper, I was like, once we felt heard, everyone was okay going. We got excited. We just needed to hear each other, to hear our concerns about it. I suggest this to all my clients, whether they have the idea or not, just write to yourself, should I do this? And then like see what the answers are. Different parts of you will answer. And people can see it. Like for us, it's like we must do it. Maybe most people don't have to do it, but why not? Why not? Like all the answers are within us anyway. Like why not figuring out what different answers are just by like writing? So for us, it's really important to do this to make any decision we want to make, big decisions. We have to write to each other, hear each other out, and then we use consensus. Like we will like, okay, it's not even a voting. We just like convince each other why or why not, or if the part says no, like, why not? What do you need? What would it make it okay? What would it make it yes? And they would say, like, what? I'm like, okay. And that is like creates such an incredible self care. Most of the times, the way we understood self care is take a bath, use this shampoo or buy this makeup. But really, like self care for us is like really hearing each other out. And we done that through writing the book because we collaborated with each other. The way we experience every story is a little bit different. I remember that thing in the kitchen with my mother like this. And another part of me remembers actually leaving the kitchen and going to the living room. So we all like have a different part of the story, but collaborating together is just like, finally we can breathe. Finally we can breathe because we are not alone in this pain. We have each other, but also everyone can connect to what I'm saying, whether they have the idea or not, if they try it. And I know this because as a clinician, I work with non DID people all the time. And when we use the system, they're just so much happier. Like I use what I know to help people. Like you don't have to be as severe, complex PTSD as I experienced, but still the tools would work and applies to everyone.
That's a beautiful answer, and I love that exercise that you gave, and I do something similar in my own life, and I will encourage people to do variations on this exercise. So, for me personally, every morning I have an uncensored journal time when I will write, and especially if I'm experiencing a conflict, the way I experience it is there's the child part of me and there's a protector part of me using internal family systems language in a very loose way. So I will connect with the mental part of me that just keeps keeping tabulations of what's happening. I will write to those parts and say, what is it that you need? Or where is the conflict? And I will listen. And what I found is exactly what you're saying is that when I take the time to address the parts of myself that maybe aren't on board with the decision or are feeling a conflict with where I want to go, or they just don't feel heard, right? Their needs are not being met. My life is so much easier and I feel so much less stress. So, yes, anyone can do this. And I 100% agree that it makes your life better.
I totally feel that way. And thank God to psychology.
Yes.
Everybody knows they have an inner child, at
Yes.
least. We got one part. But if they allow themselves to connect to different parts of them, they realize there's more. There's more to us than just like this individualized, like person who's very one sided. Humans, we are not really one sided. We can tap into different things at the same time. And it's because we have parts. I won't say alters because that's very specific to DID people, but we have parts.
What I love about your book is that you have this way of both telling a gripping story that confronts some horrific things that happened. So we're talking about war and revolution and living in the aftermath of war, which can be just as horrific. People don't think about that. They think about war and then that's it. But then there's the aftermath, in addition to some really intense abuse that happens in the home and happens in community, right? And all of the secrets that this young narrator is holding, you have this brilliant way of telling that story and also how these parts play a role. And I have worked with other writers who have DID. And when I read your book, I was like, oh, yeah. I love how you talk about it in terms of a system. The way they were writing about it was very similar to how you wrote about it. There was some parallels. But I think there's a brilliant way of talking about this is what happened to me. These are the experiences I had, and these are the ways that I coped or survived. And then we have the House of Stone, in which it creates both this sense of relief or like a breath between, things that happen that are really tough. And they give us a framework through which to see this. So if someone hasn't read your book, what would you like to tell them about the story you're telling?
Well, I am telling many stories.
Yes.
I would tell them it's a story of many parts in the same system, the ways we protected each other, really. So it's a story of protection. There's a story of care. There is a story of this condition, which is an absolutely non-violent condition. We kind of like break ourselves to pieces to hide the trauma from ourselves. And in return, we're also protecting our abusers. Because every day I will wake up not remembering anything and I'll be like, let's go out play, let's be good. Like, and these people who are hurting me, they're like, they will come to me and be like, are you okay? I'm really sorry. And why are you sorry? Everything is okay. Everything is good. We're gonna start over. So it's like starting over every day, not remembering. So it's a story of how brilliant this condition really is. It's not something like we can learn as an adult and make it happen. It just really has to develop really young. And a lot of DID people have a place they go to. So it's a dissociative place that they go to. Mine turned out to be in a forest because I love trees. I love plants. I still like love plants, like all over my apartment. There's so many plants. Like I love trees. I love forests. So it was this house, a secret house in the forest that I would go hide in with my parts. So they were my headmates, but I didn't know that as a child that this is in my head happening. Like I really thought I'm going to this incredible forest, that there's this house of stone. So it's also like how brilliant our mind can be with the creation of what we need. So I worry about kids just in general, people who don't use their imaginations, like sometimes children are like they don't even apologize and they have their imagination, they go wherever they need to survive, right? So it's a story of like my inner world intertwining with my outer world in Iran, which was really scary, like because of the war, because of all the abuse, because of things like, like it was like after the revolution in Iran wasn't the same. Like I remember everyone was happy before the revolution. This the first 7 years, it was very different. There was a lot of colors everywhere, right? And I love colors. And then after the revolution, everybody had to wear black. I love wearing black. I live in New York. There's nothing wrong with that. But forced, everybody had to wear black and everything got dark. Everything got dark. The joy was sucked out of people. So it's a story of like also like what Iranian people went through, by this regime who absolutely cares nothing for the people and only takes the money of the country because we're a very rich country and they absolutely don't care, and all the violence that they brought to this culture. So it's because I want people also to understand Iranian people are not the government. The government, they are hostage, right? They are hostage in their own country by government that would kill them. And they are actually killing them at the moment that as we are speaking. If they say, I want freedom, they call it a rage against God. Like you want to be what? You want to be happy? They kill people, they're shooting people, they're shooting protesters. So I remember a lot of this even then, like when everything was changing, because people wanted democracy even like when I was 7 in 1979. And what they got is actually a dictatorship in the name of God, which has nothing to do with religion. So I think I'm getting distracted because I'm really like talking about Iran really upsets me, but I'm hoping people who will read my book, they will have some compassion. I hope that this is like my service, like to Iran, to Iranian people by telling my story, telling our story. This is like not just my story. There's like thousands of people have this story of this despair they had to go through in the search of freedom. The most natural dream for any human is to be free, and they have not been free, right? How everyone deals with lack of freedom is in their ways. Like for me, because I was a child and I wasn't safe at home, it wasn't just streets. Like in the streets, it's dangerous. You can get killed, you can get shot, you can be arrested for very little and be taken to jail and raped and all kinds of stuff like unheard of for Westerns, right? But also, my home was dangerous too. So I had no safe place. So I created a safe place in my mind, which I didn't know then. And it was absolutely safe because there was trees with faces. There was a volcano that would spit fire at anyone who wanted to hurt me. And there was a time that I couldn't tell which world was more real. Is the world with butterflies more real? Or is the world there hanging man on the street is more real? So of course I was like, oh, I think butterflies are more real. So I've been there more and I was getting more and more dissociated and more dissociated until they were trying to marry me off to all kinds of people. So I ran away. And when I came to US, I made it here. Then I was like, okay, I can't live in my head anymore. I have to figure out how to learn English, how to put myself through college,
Yeah.
how to get an apartment, how people find an apartment. Like I didn't know anything. I was so naive. Like I had to figure out everything. How do you enroll yourself to college? I didn't know. So I would just like I found this college and I was sneaking classes, not knowing until I got caught and they're like, you have to enroll. What is enroll? I had to figure out things that most people just learn. People help them to learn. And a lot of people also helped me because when anytime I asked them and they were like, "Are you serious? You don't know?" I'm serious. I don't know. And they would teach me.
Yeah, and I do wanna talk about Iran and, your feelings on it and what you want all of us to know about what's happening now. And I want them to read this book because I think it serves as a powerful context for people to understand what that experience of the revolution was. And what struck me is when I was in my 20s, I ended up in Yugoslavia when they were trying to overthrow Milosevic, and I was just there for this short thing. I was on a heavy metal tour, and there's like a whole story. But what was surprising to me is that for years before, and I was very young, right? So I didn't have a lot of life experience. I had been told that Yugoslavia was one way, and like what the government was doing was what the people were like. And then when I was there, I ended up meeting with people who were working to overthrow the government and were protesting in the streets. And what surprised me is like, yes, those things were happening. And what I would call regular life was also happening. So it's like atrocity and what we think of as normal life, like just going to the grocery store or trying to go to school and learn. All of these things are happening simultaneously. And people have to figure out a way of navigating both, right? How do you walk on the street when it's not safe and anything could happen? And you could, which you document in your book, see a man, being hung on the streets, or figure out how to safely get to a place and go to school while all of these things are happening. I think the most beautiful through line of this book is this narrator always wanted freedom. She had this massive tenacity and just guts. That's the only word I can think of. And I 100% agree. A brilliant, brilliant mind that allowed her to survive what some people would say is unsurvivable and navigate and find freedom. I mean, I just find that to be the miracle of your story.
Thank you. Thank you. I remember the word azadi, which means freedom, from the first revolution from 1979. And that word was such an important word for me. Like, I wanted to understand what it means, and the lack of it was very obvious for me. And if you talk to any Iranian person there or here or anywhere, they will tell you what that word means to them. Like, a lot of people might want security, right? For a lot of Iranians, it's freedom. For me and all my parts, is freedom. Iranian people are dying on the streets because they want freedom. They resist oppression, right? They resist and they come to the streets with this passion for freedom for decades, and they're met with bullets and machetes. But they do not stop because they know a life without freedom is not a life. And that's not what they want, that it deserve. They deserve more. So they are fighting for it. And I wish the world would wake up and help them, because these are like brilliant minds that they're just being wasted for what? Because of this group of people want to have all the money and the wealth of the country, and they don't care about humanity, and we're gonna all be quiet about it and watch it while all these beautiful humans are fighting for freedom, because it's a fight that we all should honor in the world. It's not their thing and not our thing, it's everyone's thing. We all need to be free.
Yes.
We all need to honor freedom. So we need to help them. We need to amplify their voices. We need to not stay quiet and think about productivity and, like, I don't know, like, there are more important things in the world that makes us human that we need tap to, and that is our desire to be free.
Absolutely. Because I think in the world that we're in right now, so many things are coming at us at the same time that I talk to a lot of people that they feel helpless. They don't know what to do. If people could do one thing that would support the Iranian people, listeners of this podcast, what's one thing that they could do?
One of the thing is read books about Iran, read my book, read about books that they're reading, listen to all the people and the news that coming out from the people. Like, amplify our voices. Don't close your eyes. Witness with us what's happening, because sometimes silence is more dangerous than anything else, right? Like, when I was being abused, right? A lot of people watched it. They saw it and did Nothing. It was very hard for me to learn this later on that a lot of people knew, but they're just like, she's too damaged already. Like, there's no saving her anymore. So they just like close their eyes, right? Their silence was dangerous. The silence sometimes protects the bullies, protects the abusers, protects the oppression. Is that what you want? Ask yourself, who are you protecting? Are you a person who wants to protect dignity of humanity and freedom of other people and yourself? Or are you a person who just like goes to silence and okay with protecting oppression? And most people would be like, no, I don't want to protect oppression. Like, if, most humans would say that unless they are part of it, part of the oppression. So why are you silent? Why are you not talking about this? Why are you not reading more about it? Why are you closing your eyes to it and getting numb to this? Those are things I would suggest. Like, that is another reason I wrote my book, not only to make people understand about dissociative identity disorder, what complex trauma can do to the person, but also to understand, create compassion with humanity. Because, like, when we identify with one another, we will protect each other.
Yes.
When we don't understand, we fear things. When we understand, we want to protect each other, right? When we understand that there is a way to create inner harmony so we are less harmful and dangerous to ourselves and our parts, we will be more kinder to other people. So there is definitely a way. I strongly believe I have become a better human because I've worked through the conflicts I have with my parts, and I meet all my parts with compassion and love. I become a different, kinder, more loving human to everyone else because I understand they have also parts, and I understand that if I help them understand their parts and become a mediator between their conflicts, like a mediator between their parts, and if they understand, they can mediate and understand how to support and heal themselves, they will become a better friend to me and to the world. And, resilience is also contagious. Trauma lives in the body and it's like can be debilitating, but also resilience lives in the body and can spread once we kind of get out of it, get out of those narratives, that I'm not enough, I'm not good enough, I can't help. Yes, we can. We can't help you. We can't help ourselves, and then we can help everyone else. The act of service, like not looking for fame, not looking for more money, but looking for like, how can I help my sisters? How can I help my brothers? How can I help other people? The pleasure that comes out of helping other people, like it's such an incredible feeling. It's worth so much more than materialistic stuff. And when we connect to it, we can help each other, we can heal each other, we can protect each other more. And it doesn't matter what country, what borders, those are really man-made. It's not real. Like we all want the same thing. We all want love. We want to be safe. We want to like create friendships and communities. We all want the same thing. Why are we not?
Yeah, I love that. And a quote is coming to my mind, and I'm going to forget who said it. So, listeners, if you know who it is, you can just tell me. But it's that when I know your story, I can't help but love you. And so, reading the stories of people who are from Iran or from other countries where oppression is happening is one way that you can learn how to love the world. And if you are really paying attention to your own inner story, treating yourself with compassion, that's how you open your heart to be able to open your heart to those stories. So if you're listening to this and you're like, I do want to do something, pay attention to your own inner story. And reading My Name is Fire is a great example of what that might look like. So do that for yourself. And reading Atash's book is a great way to also get to understand what's happening in Iran, what happened before, and how, in some ways, it's playing out again. And then you can look for other books that teach you more about these experiences so that you can be of service to your brothers and sisters across the world by saying yes to freedom for everyone.
Yes, absolutely. Another thing, as you're saying, there was a time that my parts didn't get along and we self-sabotaged a lot, right? So it felt like our system was like more dictatorship. So one part was like, I'm the smartest, I'm gonna take care of everything. Once we started learning about each other, it's still like we were like, oh my God, you're a weak part, so you're scared, you're a shy part, you're not gonna be good, like, right? So it's like, actually, I'm the part, I'm black. So I always took over and I was like, I know how to fight and I will protect all my parts. So it was me ruling my system instead of listening, right? So there was a lot of disharmony. I did not feel good. It was not good. When I learned to step down a little bit and allow other parts come forward and see their gifts and what they bring, my shy parts bring to the system, the so-called weak parts bring to the system, so what? There's a part of me wants to dance all the time. Great. Thank you so much. Who says that's bad? I did beginning because I felt productivity is the only thing matters, right? I have to do all these big things. No, I have a part that loves to dance and understands the genius that movement we can process our hard feelings through movement too. Not just by talking and doing therapy, but movement. That's what she does. She brought that to the system. So then became a more democratic system, right? Even if you learn that and you become that, then that's how you stand up to oppression. When you can stand up to it internally, you will stand up to it externally. There is no way you will put up with it. Does that make
Oh,
sense?
it makes total sense. Yeah. Really, it starts with the self and ending internalized violence, the ways that we are violent and aggressive towards ourselves by having deep compassion, often for the part that we want to push away. I've worked with so many people, and I'll be the first to say, when my therapist in the beginning said, you have to work with your inner child, I was like, no, not the inner child. I hate the inner child. Like I had so much anger, towards this part because that's where the hurt lived, right? I couldn't face that hurt. Being able to look at what is the part of myself that I wanna push away? What is the part that I might be angry with or that I hate, and how can I learn to love them by asking, like, what do they need? And then
Exactly.
I always tell people this is the most important part, giving it to them.
Yes, thank you so much. Exactly. What do they need? And how can I meet their need?
Yes.
And also, it's like not blaming the victim, right? Like,
Right.
oftentimes we do because that's the one we can. It's the easiest thing, but that is not productive. That's so harmful. And victims need support, they need love. We actually need to hear what they need and help them to come up out of this like ditch that other people put them and then blaming them for it. No, enough is enough. Like, it's not your fault. It was never your fault. I am so sorry I've been treating you this way. Blaming you for all these horrible things that other people did. Like, I am so sorry. Saying I'm sorry to your parts.
Yes.
I had to do a lot of that because I was actually really sorry for like not hearing them. But I had to get them out of the country, like I was the one who had the energy and the courage to do it. And then I had to just be like, what else is there? Most people who read the book, they're like, good job, really good job. Wow. And we feel it too. We're really proud of it because it was the teamwork that made it so good. If I wrote the book alone, probably it wouldn't be so good. But because I wrote it as a team, we wrote it as a team, collaboration, hearing each other. That's like modeling for other people, right? It turned out really beautiful. And for artists to really love their own work, it's a big deal. We have written a lot of things. We're like, oh my God, I should have worked on it a little bit more before I released it. But this one, we feel so good because we were all in it together. We all let each other talk and write, and we didn't delete anyone. And we're like, whatever you have to say is beautiful. That yes, you're the boy, you're the male part, and we're not ashamed of you. Oh yeah, you're the lesbian. Okay, it's okay. We're not ashamed of you. Okay. I know a lot of people gonna judge you, but I don't judge you. We don't judge you. We love you. Thank you for being in our system. Thank you for being the male in our system. And yes, a lot of men hurt us and we feel certain way about, but thank you for being the male and bringing the male perspective to our system that all men are not bad. There's a lot of good men in this world. And thank you for bringing that perspective. Like there's a lot of gifts internally and for allowing and hearing it.
if someone hasn't read your book yet and they don't know, one of the ways that you talk about your parts is each part, the name is a color, right? So
Yeah.
there's black and there's orange and there's red. And you have these short chapters interspersed between what I would say is like the outer life story, where you take us into this world and we get to meet these different parts, these different characters. I'm going to talk about the craft of writing, which I just want to say you got some major chops, okay? You wrote this so well, and I'm so glad it was a collaborative process because as a book, there is, I would say, one consistent writing voice. I never felt lost in your story. I never felt like I didn't understand where we were going. I always felt grounded in the story, even though the way you told it is very different from other books that I have read. And yet I could feel those different emotional tones at different points when you would share, here's a part, and then it's almost like they're telling that part of the story. I would feel that difference in tone, or that just very slight difference in voice, which if you look carefully, you'll see it. And what was amazing to me, and I think this is once again that genius part of what the brain does and how the system works, is that there was so much love from these different parts for the narrator who was going through the story out in the outside world, and then also just internally. It was a place that I felt safe in. And I felt very grateful to be able to witness and be a part of.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for reading our book and like understanding it and wanting to amplify our voice. Like it's such a gift. Thank you so much. But one more thing I will say about the brilliance of the DID system is that we don't really understand how it works, but we're all protecting each other. Even when we don't understand it, it's a protective mechanism. So you don't get it until later on in life, but our purpose was to preserve Red's innocence. That's why she's in the cover of our book, because in preserving her innocence, by like anytime something came at us to hit us, different parts showed up and took it, and different, right? We preserved her innocence, and therefore that innocence still exists in us. They weren't able to damage us. Yes, we got broken and we had to put the pieces back together, but our innocence was never destroyed. And that's the thing. I'm like, how is that possible? Even when I read my own story and I connect to my story, I'm like, that's the most incredible thing that I love. And when I work with DID people, I see the same. And then, in fact, this weekend, I'm going, like tomorrow actually, I'm going to a DID conference, right? There will be 500 people like me that I'm going to connect to, like thousands of us, different parts of them. Every single DID person I've met, they have this incredible innocence about them. The most beautiful thing. And that's why I also feel like I had to write this book, because I can, and I'm not scared anymore about talking about it, because I want to protect these beautiful humans, right? Because people are like trying to portray them as scary or like violent people, when actually this disorder is created based on nonviolence. So I can't wait for this weekend just to be around these people, because also when I was scared, when wasn't out yet, I went to this conference as a therapist only, not as a survivor. I went as a therapist only, because the therapists are welcome to come in and learn about DID. And then I just like watched and saw these incredible people, their freedom and their courage and telling their stories little by little helped me to come out of my shell and be like, yes, I'm a therapist. I also have this condition. And little by little, and now I'm like, yes, I'm a therapist and I have this condition and I'm an activist. Now, like, but they inspired me to do it. And so I hope like I can go back and inspire a lot of other people who are terrified coming out, inspire them that they don't have to come out necessarily, but know that it's possible and there's nothing wrong with you.
Yeah.
Like, acknowledge the incredible mind that allowed you to survive because it worked. You're here. You're here. You're
Yeah.
here. So it worked.
Yeah, absolutely. And you just said something that I want to follow up on. You shared it in the beginning, which is that it was only last year that you fully came out. If this language doesn't feel like it works for you, please feel free to correct it. In a lot of neurodiversity communities, and I'm talking about neurodiversity broadly to talk about trauma and ADHD, autism, a larger group, there's this concept of masking, this way of
Yeah.
pretending normal. Like, and I'm
Yeah.
putting normal in air quotes here because I don't
Yeah.
believe in that word, but adhering to the norms of society of like, I'm going to pretend that I'm like this. And I just want to honor first, that is exhausting. That is so exhausting.
And unnecessary, because whenever I meet people who are comfortable being who they are, like I have friends who are autistic, or I have friends who are like have ADHD, and I have it too, but milder version, like, and they're comfortable with it. It's just like, wow, you are so amazing. I see the brilliance in every condition there is. It's just so beautiful. And when people can free themselves from like acting in a normal way, which we don't really understand what that is anyway. What is it?
Right,
Like being
exactly.
like zombies, really, like being normal,
Yeah.
medicated, not feeling anything, and just going through life. Like that's normal. No, thank you.
Yeah, exactly.
I'd rather be this way than I am, because that's all I know it is. And whoever I say to, this is it, and I explain it, they never say, "Oh my God, you sound so weird." They're always like, "Wow," like they love it. And they share about themselves. It gives them courage to share about what they're struggling with and what they're facing. And it's just a beautiful thing.
Absolutely. And yet it can be really scary to come out. We all have resilience, and you are incredibly resilient. What did you tap into to feel okay with coming out? What was that for you?
It's a process. It's been a process. It's not like one day I woke up and said, "Yes, I'm going to do it." It's been a process. And going slow with it, like don't rushing yourself to come out, is really, really important, because when you know you're ready, you know you're ready, and then you do it. Just come out to save people, right? Like maybe the safe person would be a therapist or a friend or a partner. That's great. You start there and then little by little grow, right? Like all my friends and partners knew. Then I brought it to work, because like a lot of my colleagues were like, "Tash, you're so incredible shifting to people's needs." Right? They noticed my condition, but not in terms of condition, but they noticed my ability to meet people where they are at, because I have different parts that can be that and that and that and that. Right? The more we are connected to ourselves, the more we can show up for other people. So they notice that, right? Like when people notice the gifts I have, when I was honest with myself, I was like, this gift is my DID. It's actually my DID that allows me to do this. And I say this in my book, like there's people always like, "Wow, you ran away, you opened a high school, you wrote a book, you can do all these big things." And like, how did you do it? I did it because I have this inner world. I did it because I have DID, right? So sometimes our disorders are our gifts. They are disorders because they made life unmanageable for a while. Like we can't figure out things. But once we understand it and we put it back in order, then no longer is it disorder. It's like totally in order. It takes time. Sometimes disorders are things that they had to kind of like disperse and get messy to survive, but then we can put them back together. We can. And I see it all the time. This is why I love being a therapist, because I witness it all the time. See people do it all the time. And it's like so wonderful to watch and witness and be part of it.
I absolutely agree. And I've watched it, and that's the miracle of being human and the miracle of doing the kinds of work that we do. As we wrap up, there are so many takeaways that I got from this book, but I'm really curious if readers could get one thing from your book. What is your wish for that one thing, that one aha or that one insight that they could have from reading your book?
Internal teamwork can help you to have the most beautiful, joyful existence. Learning, being curious about your parts only can add to your life. Take advantage of our breath. Like we don't know when it's going to be our last breath, right? Like our breath is numbered. So use your breath to calm your system, to get centered, to look within because all the answers are there. And if it's too scary, go and ask for help. But know that there's always a way and you can find it. If you connect to your breath, if you are curious about yourself, there's always a way and you can find that way and you can get through it.
I love that answer. And I feel like that's a great place for us to wrap up. So, listeners, I just want to say once again, you have to get a copy of My Name Means Fire. It is amazing. And you know what Atasha said today is just a taste of what you'll experience from reading this book. And for those writers out there, you're not going to just learn about Iran and about this experience. You're going to learn about how to write an incredible story. And it may give you some ahas or insights into new ways that you could write your story. And so, if people want to get a copy, they want to connect with you, learn more about where you're going to be, what are the best ways for them to do that?
I'm very active. I have a part that loves Instagram, so we're very active on Instagram. That's Blue. Thank you, Blue, for that. So it's AY Healing for our initials, Atash Yaghmaian Healing. Or they can just like, if they put my name means fire, we are very public. They're gonna find us everywhere and they can find the book everywhere. Like we in every local bookshop, bookstores, which I encourage people to buy from them because they have saved my life. Like I love bookstores. And if it's too hard for them, they can also get it from Barnes and Nobles and Amazon. Like it's everywhere. And I hope people who get my book and read it and connect to it, it will inspire them to start writing their own stories for themselves. Because this book was only meant for us to learn about each other and ourselves internally. And then eventually, when you come from a place of teamwork, it was good enough to put it out in the world. So start there, just like be inspired to write about yourself also through connecting to our story, but they can find it everywhere.
Well, listeners, all of the ways that you can connect with Atash and buy her book will be in the show notes. So be sure to check those out. And Atash, I just want to say thank you so much one more time for being here, for writing this book, and for sharing your story with all of us. It's been an absolute delight.
Thank you so much as well. I'm really excited and delighted to know you, and I hope we can meet up again.
I would love that.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening. If you'd like to learn more about Atash and most importantly, buy a copy of My Name Means Fire, please see the show notes for this episode. And if you want to apply some of the concepts that Atash spoke of, press pause now and grab your notebook. We'll wait for you. All right, now that you're back, I want you to try these prompts. Think about a situation where one part wants one thing and another part of you wants something else. Ask each part what they need. Then journal about your insights and how you can offer both sides support. You can make my day by sharing your thoughts and insights in the comments on YouTube. I would love to hear from you. That's it for today's episode. Thank you so much for listening. I couldn't do this podcast without your support. If you love this episode, here are 3 simple ways that you can keep this show thriving. 1, subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or your favorite podcast platform so you never miss an episode. 2, leave a 5-star review so others can find the show. 3, join my engaged dynamic community by signing up for the Writing and Resilience newsletter. As a thank you, you'll receive a free copy of Ditch Your Inner Critic, 5 tools to transform self-doubt into self-support. Until next time, remember that your story matters. As you write and connect with the truest, most authentic version, you become not just the writer, but the person you're meant to be. And that, my friends, is the real freedom writing can offer.